Shalom, shalom. What's up? What's up? What's good? What's good? Right. So yeah, I know y'all see the title, the Exodus. Let my people go. Right. The story of the Passover. So yeah, we're gonna get into it, right? Because today is the Passover, right? And some probably celebrated last night, depending on how you may observe it. So a lot of our people is gearing up to celebrate Easter, which our people never celebrated Easter in the Bible. You do not read about them celebrating a holiday called Easter. We did Passover, right? And we're going to read about the genesis of it, the beginning of it, right? So we're going to start in the book of Exodus and all that, right? But first, of course, all praise to the Most High Yahweh, and His only begotten Son Yahweh Shai, right? First and foremost. So yeah, we're going to start with Exodus, right? The book of Exodus. Let's start at verse 1, right? In chapter 1. Start at chapter 1, verse 7. So, now, so when you understand the history, right? So, the Israelites, with Jacob, and his 12 sons and their descendants, they went into Egypt, right? During the famine and all that stuff, they went there, right? They ended up, living there. So, then, Joseph became, a powerful man in Egypt, and, so it was, living in a comfortable year, right? So that was under what some scholars say the Hyksos was the ruling power during the time of Joseph, and what we would call the Egyptians. They were, being subjugated during that time in the southern kingdom, right? But they didn't rise back up into power until I believe the Middle Kingdom or something like that. So yeah, that's where we at with it. So let's start at verse 7. So Exodus chapter 1, verse 7. And the children of Israel were fruitful and increased abundantly and multiplied and waxed exceedingly mighty in the land, and the land was filled with them, right? So, we doing what we do, multiplying and all that stuff, right? And, and we were, increasing in power, and we had, like I said, this was, right, during the, at the end of the Pharaoh that was ruling during the time of Joseph and that stuff, right? So let's get Deuteronomy 28. And it says, verse 1, And it shall come to pass, if thou hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and do all his commandments which I command thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee high above all nations. So that's what we were doing over there in Egypt. We were above the Egyptians. We were, for the lack of better terms, just doing our thing, right? Think about it like 40 years after slavery, we started building neighborhoods, cities, hospitals, colleges, doing great things, right? 40 years right after slavery, for supposedly millions and millions of people with no education and all that stuff, right? We did great things right after slavery, right? So it says, jump down to verse 4, And blessed shall be the fruit of thy body, and the fruit of thy ground. So the fruit of your body is talking about your children. You're gonna have a lot of children. You're gonna be, have big families, right? Remember back in the, during our grandparents' days, they used to have big families, right? So let's go back over here. Exodus verse 7, 1 and 7. And the children of Israel were fruitful and increased abundantly and multiplied, right? So then it says over here, blessed shall be the fruit of thy body, and the fruit of thy ground, and the fruit of thy cattle. So we started to not just only increase in our family structure, but then our wealth as well, right? And cattle increasing thy kind, and the sheep and the flock of thy sheep, right? So back over here. So it says, and the children of Israel were fruitful and increased abundantly and multiplied and waxed exceedingly mighty, and the land was filled with them. Right? Let's get Job real quick. 5 and 11. It says, Job 5 and 11 says, to set up on high those that be low, that those be which mourn may exalt to Satan, right? So, and that's what the Lord do. The Lord can take a group of people and put them above high, above high, what says in, to those that used to be at a low point, stage in their life, right? So the Israelites came into the land of Egypt as, nomads, people as shepherds and goat herders and people that are looking for a better life because in the land of Canaan, there was a famine going on. So they had to take it to Egypt. Like a lot of times where it's war-torn countries or, natural resources is very low in other countries, a lot of places come to America because America has, a lot of riches and wealth that, that they believe that they can partake in, right? So, let me see that one again. Anyway, so then, verse 8, so it says, now arose a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph, right? So now, it's this new kingdom coming into power, right? This is the, what was it, I think it's Almond Hotep dude that ended up, rising up and uniting the kingdom and stuff, and ultimately putting us in slavery, right? And you got a lot of our so-called black people that like to, represent the Egypt culture, and they be repping Almond Hotep or Hotep, not knowing that dude was a slave master and orchestrated our slavery during that time. But anyway, so yeah, let me get this, right? So this is a source got off of Wikipedia, right? So it says, who was the pharaoh at the time of Joseph? The pharaoh who ruled during the time of the story of Joseph in the Bible is identified as Seth the first in some interpretations. Some scholars suggest that he was the advisor of, talking about Joseph, was the advisor of Senkeraptus the first, and his biblical counterpart is Joseph, right? So, so even scholars, so we can look at history and see, going off of the Bible, and looking at, okay, who was the last few kings to rule under the Hyksos dynasty during the Egypt, right? So then, and the man was Cento Sosler, whatever how you say his name, right? So then it says, boom, boom. Alright. But that's it on that. So he was the Pharaoh, right, that was dealing with Joseph and the Israelites, right? Then you have some other pharaohs in between that, right? And that's another misconception too, or maybe a misunderstanding that some may have. Like when you read the story of Exodus, you're dealing with many different pharaohs. Like even with Moses, I think Moses probably dealt with maybe at the most maybe 3 different pharaohs, right? Um, but when you read the story of Exodus, it just says Pharaoh. So when it says Pharaoh, we just think it's just talking about the same Pharaoh, right? So but that's because too, like because in some instance you can read in the Bible where we will identify a Pharaoh by name, but then some scholars and historians will say that the reason why they did not probably identify that Pharaoh by name is because they didn't want to give that Pharaoh any honor, right? So, but yeah.
You got some food coming already? Huh? Let me see.
So it says, now there rose up a king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph, right? So this will be almond, right? Let me just grab that.
Some French toast. Oh, you got French toast in there? Oh, put it right here on my plate. Put it right there. Come here. Give me a fork. Yeah. I need that. No, I need that phone. I'll let you see it later. Put it down. I'll see you later. But it is an almond milk tat, right? So you know, so because he went to war with the Hittites, the Hittites or whatever. So it says the Pharaoh rose up that knew not Joseph, right? So it went from Cincerosus, however you say his name, which put Joseph in power, right? And like there's a few other pharaohs, I believe, in between. I think he was the last pharaoh, before the Egyptians took back over Egypt. But before him, you had like maybe 2 other pharaohs in between that could have been, also during the time of, when the Israelites first came to Egypt. But this guy, Cinerosis, was the last one that was, pharaoh before the Egyptians got back in power. So, so you have the Hyksos, they get taken out of power through war. So now we as a byproduct, is left over. So instead of just kicking us out of the country like they did the Hyksos, they enslaved us, right? Same thing in here in America. So many of us for them to just deport us. That's why we are the only people that can't be deported. They want to get rid of us. They come up with systematic ways to get rid of us, but they just can't just, give us some walking papers and send us somewhere, right? So same scenario that they were dealing with back there. So this is how we went down. So it says, start back at 7. So it says, and the children of Israel were fruitful and increased and abundantly and multiplied and waxed exceedingly mightily and filled the land with sinners. And there rose up a new king over Egypt which knew not Joseph. So this is the almond milk tat dude. He didn't deal with Joseph, right? He didn't, meaning they wasn't cool with the Israelites, right? Like the Hyksos was. So then it says, and he said unto his people, behold, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we. So then it says, come, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply and compass that, and when they're fallen out in war, they join also our enemies, and
and so that get them up out of the land, right? So he's like, all right, look, we can't kick these people out. So, and there's too many of them. So we have to deal with these people wisely, right? We have to deal with these people subtly. Same way how America does it, with their redlining, with their Jim Crow laws, with their segregation laws, with their other little things that they implement throughout time to make sure that we only get to a certain type of level, collect. So Egyptians, this is where the blueprint came from, right? This is where America got it from. We can read in Revelation 11 and 11, I believe, or 11 and 8, where it tells you that America is the spiritual Egypt, right? So this is the blueprint. We know how to oppress the people. So it says, and behold, his people, the children of Israel are more and mightier than we. Come, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply and come and pass that when they're fallen out any more, they join also unto our enemies and fight against us. So get them up out of the land. Therefore did they set them taskmasters to afflict them with their burdens. And they built for Pharaoh treasure cities, Pithom and Ramses, right? So they're building, right? And so that's why too some would make the case that it was during the time of Ramses that they built the city of Ramses, right? But now it was another city there before it was named Ramses. So now I cannot think of the literary term for it. I can't remember what I did for this reason, but I'm gonna explain it since I can't remember the word. So basically, oftentimes in literature, when authors write things, right, like whether it's like a documentary form or biography or autobiography or something like that, history, right? So oftentimes, right, they would write, like they write about a geographical area or region, they would list it as the known name of that time because it's familiar to the readers that are reading it. So just like, for example, like 100 years from now, somebody talk about this place here, they're gonna say the United States of America, blah 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 blah, right? But this place was not always called United States of America or America, if in case we had not, known that, this place had a name of Turtle Island. They also called it Ashura. So it had different names, right? Even a lot of different places, right? So the point is, so when it says that we built cities of Pithom and Ramses, so a lot of scholars and historians are like, oh yeah, so have to been during that time, but it's like I said, that phrase that I can't think of right now, where writers will write in the current name of that place, because the readers of that time would be more familiar with that name, right? It's like places here, like they just changed the mountain over there in Seattle or Portland or something. They just changed the name of the mountain. Or see what Trump doing the Gulf of America. At one point in time, it was called the Gulf of Mexico. But 100 years from now, people will tell a story about the Gulf of America because that's what it is listed as. So, I hope that makes sense. So, but the more they afflict them, the more they multiplied and grew, and they were grieved because the children of Israel. And the Egyptians made the children of Israel serve with rigor. So they put taskmasters over them, meaning they gave them, jobs. Because at first, under the Hittites, we were like serving as like mercenaries, right? We were like mercenaries who were defending the northeast border of Egypt, right? That was what we were doing. So what happened was we went from being soldiers and border patrols to now we the builders and the laborers, right? So work detail got changed, right? So it got to a point where they just kept hitting us with work, more, stuff, right? So then it says, for therefore they set over them taskmasters to afflict them with their burdens, and they built for Pharaoh treasure cities, Pithom and Ramses. But more they afflict them, more they multiplied and grew, and they were grieved because the children of Israel and the Egyptians made the children of Israel serve with rigor, and they made their lives bitter, hard bondage, and mortar, and in brick, and in all manner of service in the field. All their service wherein they made them serve was with rigor, right? So they were very nasty to it, very mean to it, right? As what's the name say? So, very, we look at the horrors of slavery and all that stuff. So this envision that, right? Very nasty to us, right? It says, and the king of Egypt spake unto the Hebrew midwives, which the name of one was Simplifier, and the name of the other was Puna. And he said, when ye do the office of a midwife unto the Hebrew women, and see them upon the sword, if it be a son, then ye shall kill him, but if it be a daughter, then she shall live, right? So even then, they knew to destroy a nation, you have to take out the man. So he was concerned about the women of Israel, because he was concerned, right? It was about making sure he got, rid of the males, because the males can carry on the nation. The males carry on the seed line that carries on the nation, right? And so, he said, but the midwives feared God and did not as the king of Egypt commanded them, but saved the men children alive. And the king of Egypt called for midwives and said unto them, why have ye done this thing, and have saved the men children alive? And the midwives said unto Pharaoh, because the Hebrew women are not as the Egyptian women, for they are lively, meaning like, what can we do? These Israelite women, these black Hispanic women, they popping babies out quick. What can we do? We can't catch them all. Basically what they said, right? So then it says, and deliver air and the midwives come in unto them. So it's saying like by the time we get to them, the baby's already here. So it's like, so it's not we can do, right? Therefore, God dealt well with the midwives, and the people multiplied and waxed very mighty. And it came to pass, because the midwives feared God, he had made them houses. And Pharaoh charged all his people, saying, every son that is born ye shall cast into the river, and every daughter ye shall save. So Pharaoh said, look, I'm say this one more time, right? So God ended up blessing those midwives for disobeying what Pharaoh said and not killing the babies of Israel, right? How many women today would, do that? So a lot of people willingly, kill our army, right? So these women were righteous, and God blessed them. And it says he made them a house, right? Meaning he, gave them a spot, in Pharaoh's, thing where, they was, Pharaoh didn't mess with them. They was well off, right? So then, chapter 2, it says, and there went a man of the house of Levi, of Levi, and said, and took a wife, a daughter of Levi, and the woman conceived and bare a son, and she saw him, and was a good child, and she hid him 3 months, right? So there come, Moses, right? Our great old patriarch, Moses, right? So, oh yeah, this, before, so here comes Moses, right? So now, I don't know if I mentioned it, right? So, I mentioned the hit souls. So now, we gotta keep in mind too. We were not, because a lot of people will be like, well, where's the evidence and all this stuff, and you don't see Israelites, blah, 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 blah. So, you gotta understand, we was not being called Israelites during that time in Egypt, right? That name got, once we got established as a nation, then that was the name, that we was, called, right? But we were known as the Sasu people, right? A lot of historians will say that the Sasu people were the ancient Israelites, the nomadic people that first went into the land of Egypt during the time of Joseph, right? The Sasu. And and you see that because they brought the name of Yahweh with them, right? And so, and they were in the land of Egypt. And we know that our people worship Yahweh. And we were in the land of Egypt. So the Egyptians called us Sasu. And, there's a lot of other history on Sasu, so we'll probably get into it. So, let me read this. So yeah, so it says the statue of Yahweh, that's the ancient way of saying Yahweh. The statue of Yahweh is referring to a term used in the ancient Egyptian hieroglyphic text specified in the New Kingdom period to designate nomadic, semi-nomadic people from Syria, Palestine region who were associated with the God Yahweh. It says Yahweh, but we say Yahweh. So, again, so, we have like scholars that will say that these people, link up to what we would call the Israelites, right? So, but the Egyptians called them Sasu. So, it says, the term Yahweh is equivalent to Yahweh. It says Yahweh or YHWH is believed to be the earliest known reference to the Hebrew God Yahweh outside of the Old Testament. So the Sasu people brought the name Yahweh with them to Egypt, and it is, stitched on one of the little hieroglyphic walls and hieroglyphic. And it says, again, the term Yahweh is equivalent to Yahweh is believed to be the earliest known reference to the Hebrew God Yahweh outside the Old Testament. It appears in hieroglyphic inscriptions, mostly notable in the temple of Amenhotep III at Soli, associating these nomadic people with the name of the Hebrew God, right?
So they say, oh, there's no evidence. There's no evidence. There's evidence. You just have to look, right? It's just that we don't look. We don't like to look. We just go off of he say, she say, and that's just what it is. It's evidence. It's written on their walls. The Egyptians wrote everything down, right? Yes, he.
So you can, I don't know if y'all can see this. It's an image, right? This is an image of the statue people. I don't know if y'all can see this, right? Who's those people? They look black, don't they? Statue, right? Moving on. So then it says, and when she could not no longer hide him, she took him a ark of bushels and duben, and with a slime and made and with pitch, and put the child therein, and laid it in the flags with the river bank. And her sister stood far off to with what would be done with them. So she put, Moses in the basket, in a little thing that she had made. And so her sister followed the basket to make sure that, it didn't get stuck or nothing happened to it. It got to a safe place, right? So, and the daughter of Pharaoh came unto wash herself, right? So it says that, and the daughter of Pharaoh came to wash herself at the river, and her maidens walked along by the riverside. And when she saw the ark among the flags, she sent her maid to fetch it, right? So who's this daughter of Pharaoh, right? So a lot of historians would say this Queen Hatshepsut, right? Queen Hatshepsut was a daughter of Tutmos the first or something like that, or I gotta look it up. So now she didn't have children of her own. So, but she had, it's stories about like her finding, having raising a child up, as her own, and and so she archaeologically and historically fits who the Bible will refer as to the daughter of Pharaoh, right? Yeah, okay, so her parents was Tutmosis the first, right? And then well, she had a daughter, right? But then she had Moses, right? So she raised up Moses, right? So then I'm trying to remember the history.
up coming into power for a hot second, and that's during that time when Moses was, being raised up and all that stuff, and doing, his prince stuff, and then, Moses ended up, leaving and all that, right? So yeah, right. Trying to find, but yeah, her name was Queen of September, right? So it says she had opened it up and saw the child, and behold, the baby wept. And she had compassion on him and said, "This is one of the Hebrew children." Then she said to Pharaoh's daughter, then said his sister to Pharaoh's daughter, "Shall I go call to thee a nurse to the Hebrew women, that she may nurse the child for thee?" Right? And Pharaoh's daughter said unto her, "Go." And the maiden went and called the child's mother. So his sister, followed the basket, made sure it got to a safe spot, and it came up to the, Pharaoh's daughter. Now, and, so Pharaoh's daughter, she didn't have a son. She wanted a son. So here comes this boy. So she's like, yeah. So now, a lot of people will make the mistake that Moses just didn't have no knowledge of him being an Israelite. But as we read here, the lady that his sister went to go get to nurse Moses, to watch him, to raise him, was his own mother. So if she's, being around and raising him, but she's raising him for, as, for Pharaoh's son, Queen of September's son, of course she's going to be, giving him a little history of their people and all that stuff, right? So he had knowledge, because his mother helped raise him, although he was living amongst the Egyptians. So it says, and the Pharaoh's daughter said unto her, "Take this child away and nurse it for me, and I will give thee thy wages." And the woman took the child and nursed it. And the child grew, and she brought unto him Pharaoh's daughters, and he became her son. And she called his name Moses. And she said, because I drew him out of the water. And it came to pass in those days, when Moses was grown, that he went out unto his brethren and looked on their burdens, and he spied the Egyptian smiting the Hebrew, one of his brethren, right? So Moses is grown now, right? So now he makes the conscious decision to go live amongst his people, right? So he got rid of all the riches and all that stuff that he had as Egyptian prince. He said, "I'm going to go meet with my people." So now he's being with his people. We're looking at the affliction that his people are going through. So then it says, and it says, and he looked this way, and he looked that way. Meaning he looked around to make sure nobody was looking at him. And he saw that which was no man, and he slew the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. So he killed that Egyptian that was, oppressing his fellow Israelites that he saw. He was like, "What? You can't be talking to my people like that." And he lost it, right? And he killed that man and buried him right where he stood at, right? And when he went out the second day, behold, two men of the Hebrew strove together, and said unto him, did the wrong, therefore smite thou thy fellow. So now here come these little Uncle Tom people, right? They see Moses coming, and they're like, "Oh shit, that's the one that killed the Egyptian." And they're like, "Oh shit, you gonna kill us too?" Like, not knowing that Moses was defending God, right? But you have people that, our people, you have a lot of our people that don't want you to shake up. Oh no, don't poke the bear. Oh no, don't say that. They're gonna come over, you're gonna get us all killed. Oh no, don't say that, because oh no, you're gonna make it hard for all of us. Like, you got a lot of bunch of those people, and I can't stand them, right? I hate them, right? And but there's a lot of them, that's around. So that's what these people is up to, right? And where am I? It says, and when he went up the second day, behold, two men of the Hebrew strove together, and they said unto him that did the wrong, where therefore thou smitest thy fellow? And he said, who made thee a prince and judge over us? Intendest thou to kill us, as thou killed the Egyptian? And Moses feared and said, surely this thing is known. Because our people like to talk, news get, such and such, shot such and such. Before, like, something can just happen. I'm all the way where I'm at. Something happened somewhere over there. Guarantee you're going to know within the 20 minutes of it happening, because people talk, right? So, now Pharaoh heard the sting and sought to slay Moses, because it's against the law to kill the Egyptian, right? Just like back in slavery, it was against the law to put your hands on a white man, right? So it says, but Moses fled from the face of Pharaoh and dwelt in the land of Midian, and he sat down by the well. And now the prince of Midian had 7 daughters, and they came and drew water and filled troughs to water their father's flock. And the shepherd came and drove them away, but Moses stood up and helped them and watered their flock. So, some little unruly dude, they're trying to bully people, not allowing these sisters to, get water and feed their flocks and, do their little stuff they need to do. So Moses saw that, so, we can't get down on the one that folk like that, so he helped them out, right? Then he, made sure they got water for their cattle. And it says, and he said up to his daughter, and where is he? He that he had left the man, called him, that, okay. Yeah, I said, alright. So, and when they came to Ruel, their father, he said, how is it that ye are come so soon? Right? So, they back sooner. Because, Moses talked about, they got rid of the dude that was trying to bully him and all that stuff. Then, and they said, the Egyptian delivered us out of the hands of the shepherds, and also drew water enough for us, and watered the flock, right? So, key word there. He said, an Egyptian, right? So, now, if Moses was to quote our dear brother Malcolm, a pale skin, a pale face, why did she mistakenly call him a Egyptian, right? And anybody with good common sense know that the Egyptians look black like me, right? And then he said unto his daughters, where is he? Why is it that he had left the man? Call him that he may eat bread. And Moses was content to dwell with the man, and gave Moses Zipporah his daughter. And she bare him a son, and he called his name Gershom. For he said, I have been a stranger in a strange land. And it came to pass that the king of Egypt died. So that Pharaoh died. Because remember I was telling you that Queen of Sheba, she ended up coming into power because that her brother died, right? So her brother died, so she ended up coming into power, right? Um, and I lost my spot. Um, yeah, okay, here we go. So then it came to pass that time came to pass in the process of time that the king of Egypt died, and the children of Israel sighed by reason of the bondage, and they cried, and they cried there, and their cry came up to God by reason of the bondage, right? So God heard their plea. So they crying, because probably perhaps after Pharaoh died, Almond Mixie, Almond, how you say his name? Almond, Tutmos the third, right? He probably went extra hard after his brother or father died, right? So he started putting a little more extra, just being more cruel to our people. So we was feeling it. So it says, the children of Israel sighed by the reason of bondage, and they cried, and their cry came up to Yahweh by reason of their bondage. And Yahweh heard their groaning, and Yahweh remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and Jacob. Right? Then it says, and the Lord looked upon the children of Israel, and God had respect unto them. Right? So people say, well, God don't show no respect to the person. But the Bible says God has respect for Israel, though. Right? And what it means by God don't show respect of a person, meaning in judgment, meaning God judges everybody equally. He's not going to, be like, well, you're rich, so since you're rich, I'm not going to judge you the same way I would judge somebody that's poor. So that's what it means by no respect of the person, right? So, but God had respect on us. So let's get Genesis 46. So we read that it says, and God spoke unto Israel in a vision of the night, saying, and said, Jacob, Jacob. He said, here I am. And he said, I am God, the God of your father. Fear not to go to Egypt, for I will there make thee a great nation. Right? So it was prophesied for us to go to Egypt, because God was going to make us a great nation, right? And so God knew that we were going to go in there and make us a great nation. So He didn't bring us there to destroy us and to have us, just serve captivity and all that hard stuff. So when we start crying out for Yahweh to help us, He heard it, right? And it says, and He said, I am God. He said, and I will go with thee into Egypt, and I will also surely bring thee up again, and Joseph shall put his hand upon thy eyes. Right? So, and that was the promise, that we're going to go to Israel, and He was going to bring us out. Right? Hold on.
Alright, so now look, another prophecy. So now he told our forefather our forefather Jacob, Israel, yeah, go ahead into Israel, you know, and go in there with Joseph, then I'm gonna make you a great nation, right? And it says here, Genesis 15 and 13. And he said unto Abraham, know that surely that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, talking about Egypt, and shall serve them, and shall be afflicted 400 years. So that's what happened. So God, told Abraham that we're going to go into Egypt, we're going to end up serving there, and we shall be afflicted for 400 years, right? So, back over here. And it says, and God heard their groaning, and God remembered his covenant with Abraham, and with Isaac and Jacob. And the Lord looked upon Israel with respect, right? And because God had respect for the children of Israel, right? And go to chapter 3, right? Chapter 3, Exodus chapter 3. And now Moses kept the flock of Jethro and his father-in-law and the priest of Midian, and he led the flock into the backside of the desert and came into the mountain of God, even to Hebron. So, we all saw the Ten Commandment movie, right? So he's going to the mountain. So it says, an angel of the Lord appeared unto him in a flame of fire out of the midst of the bush. And he looked, and behold, the bush burning with fire, and the bush was not consumed, right? So you're looking at this, strange anomaly, like that. It's a bush on fire, but it's not burning, right? Like, wow, that's pretty cool. That's how you're looking at it, right? Now, in nature, this does happen. Like, on volcano mountains, you have bushes, because of the reaction and the chemicals that come from the volcano end up coating the vegetation on a mountain. So sometimes it can ignite and be on fire and it doesn't burn because of the coat that was applied because of the chemicals of the volcano that got onto the vegetation surrounding that mountain, right? So for everybody that not think that it's not possible, it is scientifically possible, and it happens throughout nature. It's just that Moses haven't seen, right? So it says, and the angel of the Lord appeared unto him in a flame of fire, and out of the midst of a bush, and he looked, and behold, the bush burned with fire, and the bush was not consumed. And Moses said, I will now turn aside and see this great sight, why the bush is not burnt. And when the Lord saw that he had turned aside to see, God called unto him out of the midst of the bush and said, Moses, Moses. And he said, Here I am. And he said, Draw not nigh hither, put off thy shoes from off thy feet, for the place whereon thou standest is holy ground, right? He's like, look, this is where I'm chilling at, this is my man cave, take your shoes off, right? Then it says, more so he said, I am the Lord, thy God, I am the Lord of thy fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look upon God. And he said, I have surely seen the affliction of my people, which are in Egypt, and have heard their cries, and
for reason of their taskmasters, for I have known their sorrow, and I have come down to deliver them out of the land of Egypt, and to bring them out of the land unto a good land, and a large, and unto a land of flowing with milk and honey, unto the place of the Canaanites, and the Hittites, and the Amorites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites. Right? And now, therefore, behold, and cry out, the cry of the children of, therefore the cry of the children of Israel is come unto me, and I have also seen the oppression wherein with the Egyptians oppressed them. Right? So God ain't with that. God ain't with his people being oppressed. God ain't with his people, being sad, right? Just like any parent. Any parent do not want to see their child being taken advantage of, right? So God ain't with that, right? So yeah, verse 10. Now come, therefore I will send unto Pharaoh. Now therefore I will send thee unto Pharaoh, and thou mayest bring forth my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. So who's God's people? The children of Israel, right? And let's prove that really quick. Let's go to, because a lot of people are like, well, this is the Old Testament. That's the Old Testament, blah, blah, blah. Whoever believes, and all that cool stuff. But let's see what the New Testament says. Let's see what the Apostle Paul says. And he says, for I wish myself were accursed for Christ for my brethren, my kinsmen, according to the flesh. So Paul is saying that he wished he could do this the same way Christ did this for his brothers, according to the flesh. Right? Flesh. And it says, who are Israelites? So who did Christ do this for? For the Israelites. Who did Paul wish he could do this for? For the Israelites. Who are Israelites? To whom pertaineth the adoption. So everybody said, well, yeah, you can be adopted in. But it says, who are Israelites? To whom pertaineth the adoption. The glory, the covenants. They say, well, the new covenant, the new covenant is for everybody. But it just says, who are Israelites? To whom pertaineth the adoption. So this stuff that he's about to say all pertains to the Israelites. It says, who are Israelites? To whom pertaineth the adoption, and glory, and covenants, and the giving of the law, and the services, so the worshiping, how God should be worshipped, the knowledge, the understanding of how we should be doing this was given to us. And it says, in the service of God, in the promises. So this was given to the Israelites because, like it says over here, my people Israel, right? Then okay, where we at?
Okay.
And it says, and Moses said unto God, who am I that I should go unto Pharaoh, that I should bring forth the children of Israel out of Egypt? And he said, certainly I will be with thee, and this shall be a token unto thee that I have sent thee. When thou hast brought forth the children of the people out of Egypt, ye shall serve God upon this mountain. So God was like, look, for you to know that all this is real, I guarantee you, you and all your people, we all gonna be on this mountain, right? And you gonna know that everything I'm telling you is true, right? And Moses said unto God, behold, when I come unto the children of Israel and say unto them, the God of your fathers hath sent me unto you, and they shall say unto me, what is his name? What shall I say unto them, right? So, this is it started off by telling you this is the angel of the Lord, right? Meaning this is an angel that comes in to represent the Yahweh, right? This is not Yahweh. A lot of people will take this verse and be like, okay, this is Yahweh. This is the angel of the Lord. God himself, Yahweh, the Most High, never ever touched foot on this earth, ever, right? He will send angels to represent him, to speak for him, to speak his words, but he have not stepped foot on this earth. Many places in the Bible tell you that, right? So it says, and it said, boom, boom, boom. And God said unto Moses, I am that I am. Thus thou shalt say unto the children of Israel, I am has sent me unto you. Right? So a lot of people say, well, it says God right there. But the word God just means power. Let's get it real quick, right? Let's break it down. So it just means power, principality, ruler, judges, right? Like Donald Trump will be a guy, right? People in high positions will be gods. People that is like rulers, like in certain capacities, will be gods, right? Because that's just what the word means, to be in rulership. So, so now this is God, right? In a blue letter. And it's Elohim, which means power, right? So go to it. So it's Strong's H430, right? That's where you find it at. And it says outline biblical usages, plural, rulers, judges, divine ones, angels, gods, right? So it has multiple meanings, right? So a lot of times people see the word God and be like, see, he's talking about God. So this is just talking about an angel, right? So it says, or how the other definition says, divine ones. So then it says, and God said to Moses, I am that I am. Elahaya, I believe that's how you say it, right? And it says, and he said, thou shalt say unto the children of Israel, I am has sent me unto you, right? So he's letting you know, look, the angel of the Lord, Elahaya, I think I said it right, is sending you, right? Then he says, moreover, and God said, moreover, Moses, thou shalt tell the children of Israel. So now, this is not for emphasis. So just like, alright, use this for example, because most of us see this. So we see the movie 300, right? So you remember when a messenger came to Leonidas. So let's just say if Leonidas was to ask the messenger his name, and the messenger would say his name. But the messenger is also, but more importantly, the messenger is there speaking on behalf of Xerxes, the Persian Empire, right? So this is what he's saying. So he's told him his name, but then he's saying more importantly, this is who's sending you. So he's letting them know, okay, that's my name, but this is where it's all coming from. So it says, and God said, moreover, unto Moses, thou shalt say unto the children of Israel, that Yahweh, power is of your father, the power of Abraham, the power of Isaac and the power of Jacob have sent me unto you. This is my name forever, and this is my memorial unto all generations. So that's why we call him Yahweh, because the word, the Lord God, we see it in English as the word Lord God. When we take it into, back into the Hebrews, the tetragrammaton, which goes to the Hebrew name Yahweh, right? So it's not I am, or nothing like that. I am is the angel that is speaking, and he's letting them know, okay, I'm talking to you, but more importantly, Yahweh is sending you. That's what he's letting them know, alright? So, and it says, and God said, moreover, and go and gather the elders of Israel, and gather and say unto them, the Lord thy God, your Father, the Lord thy God of your father, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, appeared to me, saying, I surely visit you and see that which is done to you in Egypt. And I have said, I will bring you up out of the affliction of Egypt unto the land of the Canaanites, the Hittites, and the Amorites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites, unto the land of flowing with milk and honey. And they said, and they shall hearken to thy voice, and thou shalt come, and thou and the elders of Israel unto the king of Egypt, and he shall say unto him, the Lord thy God of the Hebrews have met with us, and now let us go, we beseech thee, 3 days. That's all we was asking for at one point in time. That's all we was asking for 3 days. For a 3-day journey into the wilderness, that we may sacrifice unto the Lord our God. So that's all we wanted to do. Give us 3 days for to go celebrate our holiday, celebrate Passover, and sacrifice to our God, right? Think about it, right? So you at work, you at work, and you have to beg and plead to get a day off. You have to, some jobs have you plan in advance, that you're gonna need a day off, because you have to be there, because Pharaoh do not want nobody missing anyone. Every able body, all hands on deck, right? Some jobs won't let you call off unless you can find you a replacement. It's a lot of hassle, right? A lot of people end up missing out on a lot of events because they can't afford to miss work, right? So all we was asking for 3 days, right? 3-day journey into the wilderness that we may worship our God, right? And I am sure that the king of Egypt will not let you go, not by the mighty hand. I will stretch out my hand and smite the Egyptians with all my wonders, which I will do in the midst of thereof. And after that, he will let you go. Right? So God was like, look, I know he ain't gonna let you go, but I got something planned for him. I got something for this guy, right? And it says, and I will give his people, and I will give this people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, and it shall come to pass that when ye go, ye shall go not empty, but every woman shall borrow of her neighbor and of her that sojourneth in the house jewels of silver and jewels of gold and raiment, and they shall put them upon your sons and upon your daughters, and ye shall spoil the Egyptians. Right? So now, don't get it twisted because it said that word borrow. Right? We borrowed it all right. We took it because the last sentence tells you we spoiled the Egyptians, meaning God told us to rob them. Right? So now, getting back into the Sasu history, right? Sasu people. When you go into the history of the Sasu people, right? The Egyptians write about us we were like the worst people ever. Like the same way how America portrays us as thugs and hooligans and gangbangers and all that stuff. The Egyptians did the same thing with the South Sudan people. Because it got to a point in time, like leading up to our Exodus, we were rebelling, we were rioting, we were looting, we were doing a lot of stuff, right? Out of, reaction to the persecution that we were going through with the Egyptians, right? That's the history. I'm giving you the mix of the historical part, along with the Bible, because like I said, we got time. We gonna pull up all of that. I'm talking about it, but we can go through it. So yeah, you had that going on. Because especially when you get to the plagues, that happened to Egypt. When you read about it in the Bible, it just seemed like everything was just happening. But this was like a span over a few years that took, the plagues to happen, right? Especially if you match it up to the history of that Egypt wrote about what the Sasha people was doing all the way up to them leaving out of Egypt, right? So, so it says, we're going to spoil the Egyptians. So chapter 4. So it says, so yeah, we didn't borrow it because we never returned the stuff that we got from all that gold and all that stuff we got from Egypt. We never returned it back, right? So yeah. Anywho, so yeah, chapter 4. And Moses answered and said, but behold, they will not believe me, nor hearken unto my voice, for they will say, the Lord hath not appeared unto thee. And the Lord said unto him, what is that in thy hand? And he said, a rod. So Moses had a little staff, a little stick in his hand. And he said, cast it onto the ground. And it became a serpent. And Moses fled from it. So he's like, alright, look, if they don't believe you, take your staff you have in your hand, throw it on the ground. I'm going to make it turn into a snake. They got to believe, right? Then, and Moses, and the Lord said unto Moses, put forth thy hand and pick it up by the tail. And he put forth his hand and caught it, and it became a rod in his hand. That they may believe that the Lord of thy fathers, of Abraham, thy God, of Isaac and Jacob, have appeared unto thee. And the Lord said furthermore to him, put thy hand into thy bosom, meaning put your hand into your shirt, right? And when he took out his hand, behold, his hand was leprous as snow. So he put his hand into his shirt, and when he took his hand out of his shirt, his hand was white, right? All white. And remember, in the previous chapter, or other, Zipporah and her sisters, they thought he was an Egyptian. And we already know through known history and archaeology that the Egyptians are dark-skinned people. So for him to put his hand into his shirt and his hand come out white as snow, that is a miracle, that is an anomaly, that is something special, right? But if he was a so-called Caucasian like Charleston Heston, him coming out with a white hand is no biggie because his whole body is white. Right? So, again, then, and he said, put thy hand into thy bosom again. He put his hand into his bosom again and plucked out of his bosom, and behold, it was turned again as his other flesh. So, meaning it went back to his dark skin. And it shall come to pass, if they will not believe thee, neither hearken to the voice of the first sign, that they will believe the voice of the latter sign. And it shall mean, so like if they don't believe the snake thing, then show them the hand, right? And it says, and it shall come to pass, if they believe also these two signs, neither hearken unto thy voice. said, and it shall come to pass, if they will not believe also these two signs, neither hearken unto thy voice, that thou shalt take the water of the river and pour it on dry land in the river which thou takest out of the river shall become blood upon the dry land. So he gave them like 3 signs to show the Israelites that God is dealing with, right? So it says, and Moses said unto the Lord, O my Yahweh, I am not eloquent, neither heretofore, nor since thou hast spoken unto thy servant, but I am slow of speech and of slow tongue. Meaning it takes him a while to say what he got to say. Perhaps he may stutter, what I'm saying? So, and it says, and the Lord said unto him, who have thou made men, and the Lord said unto him, who have made man's mouth? So God said, I made your mouth. I created you. I made every organ on your body. I created everything to work the way it works, right? I know exactly what I'm dealing with, right? And it says, and the Lord said unto him, who have made man's mouth, or who make the dumb or the deaf, or the seeing or the blind? Have not I the Lord? So God said, I make all these things. I make these things, right? Now therefore go, and I will be with thy mouth, and I will teach thee what thou shalt say. And he said, O my Lord, send I pray thee, by a hand of him whom thou wilt send. Right? And he said, O my Lord, send I pray thee, by the hand of him whom thou send. So Moses was like, all right, I don't know if I'm the guy for this. Find somebody else, right? I can't do this, right? Then it says, in the anger of Yahweh was kindled, meaning God got mad at him. Like, look, dude, I'm the Most High God. I picked you to do a mission. I know everything about you. I know your faults. I know what's good about you. I know what's bad about you. I know all these things. But I picked you to do this job. I don't care about none of that. So God is getting mad at Moses because he's making all these excuses why he cannot go and lead the people. And it says, and the anger of the Lord was kindled against Moses, and he said, is not Aaron the Levite thy brother? I know that he can speak well, and also, behold, he come forth to meet thee. And when he seeth thee, he will be glad in his heart. And thou shalt speak unto him, and put words in his mouth, and I will be with thy mouth, and with his mouth, and I will teach you what you should do. So God like, all right, I'm gonna teach you and Aaron what's going on. So Aaron's gonna do the talking. You're gonna tell Aaron what's up, and Aaron's gonna do the talking because Aaron will be able to articulate it a little better, right? So I'm gonna teach y'all what's going on, right? So then it says, and he shall be thy spokesman unto the people, and he shall be to thee instead of a mouth, and thou shalt be to him instead of God. Right? So he even referred to Moses as a God. And if we look at this word God right here in verse 16, if you look it up in the Blue Letter or the Strong's, it's going to be the same word, Elohim, which gives you a plural definition of the word God, which means ruler, power, judges, right? So, and thou shalt take this rod in thy hand with you, and thou shalt do signs. And Moses went and returned to Jethro his father-in-law, and said unto him, Let me go, I pray thee, and return unto my brethren which are in Egypt, and see whether they be alive, be yet alive. And Jethro said unto Moses, Go in peace. And the Lord said unto Moses and Midian, Go, return to Egypt, for all the men are dead which sought thy life. So, like I said, we're going to get into the history of Seth's and her relatives, and how one of them died, so she came into power, and she ended up dying. Then her brother ended up coming into power. Then his firstborn son actually died. You can look at his mummy. His mummy is covered in all types of tumors and boils. Pursuant to the final plague of Egypt, with the firstborn dying, right? We'll get to all that. So then it says, and Moses took his wife and his sons and set them upon a ass, and he returned into the land of Egypt. And Moses took the rod of God in his hand. Right? So he took the rod of God to his hand. Right? And let's go back up to chapter 3. So it says, so jump up to Exodus 3 and 10. Come now, therefore, I will send unto thee unto Pharaoh, that thou may bring forth my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. So Moses got the rod of God in his hand. He on his donkey. They traveling back to Egypt. He feeling mighty, and he on his mission. And the Lord said unto Moses, when thou goest to return to Egypt, see that thou do all those wonders before Pharaoh, which I have put in thy hand, and I will harden his heart, that he shall not let thy people go. Right? So he's like, all right, look, go to Moses. I'm gonna harden his heart, though. He ain't gonna listen to you, right? But go holler at him, right? And thou shalt say unto Pharaoh, thus saith the Lord, Israel is my son, even my firstborn. And I say unto thee, let my son go, that he may serve me. And if thou refuse to let him go, behold, I will slay thy son, even thy firstborn. Right? So he told him from the get-go, dang, Moses came there on some, like, it is what it is type stuff. Like, look, let my people go. Let us go serve our God. Then what did he say? Or I said, behold, I will slay thy son, even thy firstborn. So Moses was already about the action from day one. When he came to talk to the Pharaoh, like, look, let my people go, or we're going to kill all your firstborn. Right? That's what we was on the first time. Right? Then it says, and it came to pass, by the way, in the end, that the Lord met him and sought to kill him. And Zipporah took a sharp stone and cut off the foreskin. Okay, I think I did something. Okay, so no, yeah, okay. So, and it came to pass by the way therein that the Lord met him and sought to kill him. So God was going to kill Moses because he wasn't circumcised, right? I mean, his son wasn't circumcised. Because circumcision is a fleshly covenant that we make with, Yahweh. That's, token to show that we in the covenant with the Most High God, right? So it says, then Zipporah took the sharp stone and cut it off the foreskin of her son and cast it at his feet and said, surely a bloody husband art thou to me. Because she was, Midian, so um, even though like they worship many different gods and stuff like that, even though they were familiar with Yahweh. So she just thought the whole thing was, she wasn't feeling the whole circumcision thing, right? So it says, so he let him go, and then he said, thou art a bloody husband because of the circumcision. And the Lord said unto Aaron, go into the wilderness to meet Moses, and he went, and he met Moses in the mount of God, and kissed him. And Moses told Aaron all the words of God who had sent him, and all the signs in which he had commanded him. And Moses and Aaron went and gathered together all the elders of the children of Israel, and Aaron and all the words which the Lord had spoken unto Moses, and did the signs in the sights of the people. Right? So, Moses went back to his wife Zipporah, circumcised his son, because God was going to, kill him because, like, we blood bound in this contract, blood in, blood out, right? So, he get his stuff together, heading back towards Egypt, running to his brother Aaron. He told Aaron all the good news that he just heard from Yahweh, and, that they on a mission now to go back to Egypt to save the people, right? So then, so it says, and Moses told Aaron all the words that the Lord who had sent him, and all the things which he had commanded him. And Moses and Aaron went and gathered together all the elders of the children of Israel. And Aaron spake all the words which the Lord had spoken unto Moses, and did the signs in the sights of the people, and the people believed. And when they heard that Yahweh had visited the children of Israel, and when he had looked upon their affliction, they bowed their heads and worshiped. Right? So they like, oh yes, finally God is here to save, right? Because they knew the prophecy, and they knew that God was coming back and was going to get his people out of Egypt, right? So we're going to end it there at chapter 4, pick up chapter 5, next time, right? We're going to lead all the way up to when it was on at the mountain, getting the commandments, right? So with that, hopefully that was edifying with a little history. We're going to try to dive a little more into the history of the Exodus and the time that they spent in Egypt. Queen of Setsu, the Amenhotep people, all them people, right? So yeah, hopefully that was edifying. We, got a little understanding that, there was a few different pharaohs throughout that, timeline of Exodus and all that. That it is historical archaeology that connects the Israelites to Egypt. The Egyptians wrote about it. We were called the Sashu people. So, yeah. Shalom, peace, I'm out. Hopefully that was edifying.